Well, welcome. Welcome to the first ever episode of Reverend John Asks a Question or Two. Today I'm starting an occasional podcast where I ask a question or two, or maybe even more. I'm a firm believer in asking great questions, and I think that great questions can bring transformation to people. And so I hope that you'll join me as I share what I believe are some great questions, and occasionally ask them of others, and just to see what comes of it. I'm committed to uploading these as often as I can, but at a minimum, let's just commit to maybe once a month. Please subscribe, both at our YouTube channel and the other platforms, so that you can get these new questions as they are posted. And I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying creating this content. So let me whet our appetites for some good questions with a story. I've heard this story often over the years. It's likely legendary and probably apocryphal, meaning it lacks authenticity, but is told as if it's true. And isn't that a reality that we live in these days? The story is told about a rabbi, a Jewish teacher in the first century of the Common Era. And it's when the Roman Empire controlled the narrative. It's attributed to a rabbi named Akiva. He's a rather famous and revered rabbi who was born probably a few decades after Jesus is crucified. And the story goes that he was a part of a Jewish revolt, a rebellion. There were several of them over time, certainly the one that saw the destruction of the temple in 70, but also much later there were a few more Jewish revolts against the Roman Empire, and he was executed for his involvement, probably early in the 2nd century, they believed. I hope you love this story as much as I do. So let's hear the story of Rabbi Akiva. Late one afternoon, when the sun was beginning to set, Rabbi Akiva was walking along the road to his home. And as was his custom, and the custom of many who took their faith very, very seriously, while they walked along, a rabbi would be often heard muttering away to himself and mumbling and not seeming to pay attention, as he meditated and recited the Hebrew scriptures to himself, deep in thought, recalling by memory, not holding a text or an iPhone or anything, but just pulling into his memory the text that he'd spent most of his life memorizing, a text that consumed his strength and his mind and his soul. And so engrossed in his meditation was Rabbi Akiva that he didn't realize that as he was walking along, the road had split. And instead of taking the left that he should have taken that would have led him home, he took the right-hand path. And unawares, the rabbi continued along the path as it got darker and darker, until a loud, commanding voice shouted from above, "Stop! Who are you? What are you doing here?" Disrupted from his meditations, Rabbi Akiva took a moment to assess where he was. It was then that he saw in front of him through the dark the gates of a large fortress. And up above, at the top of the wall, he could see the silhouette of a soldier. And in that moment, he realized his error. He had taken, you see, the road to the right that led to the Roman fortress where the garrison was stationed. The Roman guard shouted again, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Rabbi Akiva replied with, What? Still shaken by his predicament. And exasperated, the guard called out again, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Rabbi Akiva had a few moments to gather his thoughts now, and he shouted back up to the dark of this silhouette, "How much do you get paid to ask me these questions?" The guard was befuddled, confused. Why would a stranger ask such a question? A few moments of silence pass, and then the guard replies, 2 denarii per week. What's it to you?" And then Rabbi Akiva shouted back to the Roman guard, "I will pay you double if you stand outside my house and ask me those 2 questions every morning. Who are you? What are you doing here?" Well, next time, as we gather for Reverend John Asks a Question or Two, I'll invite you for now to just think about those questions, those two questions. Who are you? What are you doing here? The next time when we gather, I'll try to provide an answer to those questions for myself to share with you as a part of introducing you to this opportunity for sharing. But just think about and meditate on those two questions. Who are you? What are you doing here? But keep your wits about you. You don't want to take a wrong turn in the dark. Be well.